Sound Off.
Rated T14.
Does young people even need a voice in this community? What can the community expect from this show?
I am my brother's keeper. We got to be responsible for each other.
It's okay to be different. Building stronger communities by helping the rest of our community really make it and achieve their dreams.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go!
Welcome back to Sound Off. I'm your host, Claudine Lance Schofield. Now, Sound Off is sponsored weekly by Carolina Teen Health. And at Sound Off, it is our goal to deal with topics that are relevant to our youth. And that's why we are really honored to have in the studios with us on this morning my good friend Mary Cookie Canty Goins. And Ms. Goins is the Director of Guidance at Myrtle Beach High School. Once again, good morning, Ms. Goins.
Good morning, Ms. Schofield. I'm so honored to be here this morning.
Well, we appreciate it. Y'all, let's give Ms. Goins some love. Let's give her some love. Give her some love. And just in case we had some people that might not have been listening to the other segment, team, please reintroduce yourselves.
Angelica Byers.
My name is Dennis McCray, and I'm an 8th grade at Whittemore Park.
Brianna Evans.
Michelle DeBerry.
Hi, I'm Tanisha.
What's going on? I'm Patrick Wilson.
And Ms. Goins, I'm really excited to have my buddy Dennis, who's an 8th grader, which gives us a different perspective in terms of the earlier, the better. Now, Dennis, during the break, was asking, Dennis had some really good comments. But Dennis, I want you to go ahead and ask Ms. Goins what we were talking about earlier.
I just wanted to know, how early should I start preparing for college tests?
The day you hit school, whether that be 4-year-old or 1st grade, and I say that and it sounds, like a cliche, but it really is true. I mean, that's actually when the learning process begins. But middle school is the beginning of the end. You're making the transition from your elementary or intermediate school to middle school, and the next big jump will be from middle school to high school. So, how soon should you start preparing? In middle school, you are exposed to lots of tests. And I know our students in South Carolina and Horry, y'all take lots and lots of tests. But when it comes to those that lead into college entrance, there are 2 types of national assessments or tests that you need to go to college. The ACT or the SAT. And for many years in the Southeast, where we live, that all we knew about was the SAT. Mm-hmm. Whereas out on the West Coast, in the middle part of the United States, the ACT was really big. But in the past 15 or so years, this part of the country has now started looking at the ACT because all colleges accept, and that's also a myth that I want to dispel.
Right.
All colleges will accept either the SAT or the ACT. But I also want to put a plug in for our 2-year schools or our technical schools. Mm-hmm. The COMPASS, COMPASS. That is an assessment. If you don't take the SAT or the ACT, don't worry. You still have another assessment, which is the COMPASS, that you can take. And the COMPASS is made by ACT. But in middle school, you're already practicing for the ACT and the SAT. You have an opportunity to do Explore, which is the preliminary beginning stages of the ACT. Once you get to high school, you do the plan in the 10th grade, which is the pre-ACT. And then in the 11th or 12th grade, you take the ACT. So you have Explore, then you have Plan when you get to high school, and then the ACT. And then as far as the SAT is concerned, you have the PSAT, which is the preliminary scholastic aptitude test, and then actually the real SAT. So keep in mind, in middle school, you start working with the Explore and or the PSAT. High school, you get with Plan, and then the ACT, and then the then the SAT.
Okay, I wanted to, before I go to Michelle, because I know she's in a unique position as a big-time senior at Conway High School, but I wanted to, Ms. Goins, if you would talk a little more on the myths. Some people, a lot of parents might not realize, they go, well, if my child takes the ACT, then that's not as good as the SAT. Let's talk about that a little bit, and then what is the difference in terms of one might be science heavy, if I'm not mistaken. Can we tell them about that a little bit?
And that is probably, if there is a mission of this segment this morning, that is one of the myths that we want to dispel.
Good.
You know, SAT doesn't have any more weight than the ACT, nor does the ACT carry any more weight than the SAT. And one of the things that will help us understand that is that the state of South Carolina, in their the HOPE, the Life, and the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship, they use either test. So either a 24 on the ACT, that's comparable or equal to 1100, which is the base score for those scholarships. So that in itself is enough to help us understand that neither is greater than the other. The one thing that we were talking about earlier, I think Patrick and Tanisha and I were speaking over here, that some people think the question is, which is harder, the SAT or the ACT? Well, believe it or not, the math on the ACT is a higher level of math than that which is on the SAT. The beauty of the ACT is that you are not penalized for guessing.
Good. Please say that
As a matter
again.
of fact,
can you repeat that? That's important information.
as a matter of fact, they encourage you to guess. On the ACT, you are not penalized for guessing, and they encourage you to guess. If you are a math science person, then the ACT may be a better assessment. SAT is total analytical. But the one thing I want students to understand is that you have options. And I say at the end of junior year or in the spring of junior year, when we recommend that students take them, try each one of them. And that way you'll get an indication of that which is best for you, where your greater strengths are. So again, it's not SAT versus ACT. It's which of the assessments, SAT, ACT, or the Compass, is best suited for your student. Parents, remember that. One is not better than the other.
Good.
We have to decide as a team, counselor with past test scores and grades, parents, and the student. We have to decide as a team which assessment is best for the student.
Good. Michelle?
Going into like funding, like if I wanted to get a scholarship, which I do, what do I need to do in order to get a scholarship? And if I don't get my scholarship, which I do plan on going to college, how will I be able to like fund myself? Like what can I do?
Say scholarships for you, Michelle. Yeah, because you plan to get more than one, right?
Yes, I do.
Plural and multiple. Yeah, we work in many, many zeros.
That's right. That's right.
But the first thing is handle the business in the classroom.
That's right.
I cannot emphasize that enough. And let me say something before I address the academic side of it. You know, when athletics plays into, you just don't want to be strictly an athlete, academic athlete. Thus, they call them student athletes. Right. When recruiters or college coaches come to our high schools and come to the guidance department or meets with the guidance team, they do not ask us how good you are. They already know that. They ask us for two general pieces of information. They want transcripts and they want discipline reports. So the first thing is in acquiring monies, whether it's academics or athletics, is you have to handle the business in the classroom, because that's what determines scholarship dollars. Now, not all scholarships are based strictly on grades. Say you have to have a 3.0. Some of them are connected to areas of interest, like if you're going to be a communications major or pre-law major, there are scholarships for those areas, or community service. But nonetheless, the majority of those that may be service-oriented or areas of interest, they still have a GPA tied to it. So regardless of how you look at it or where you look, you've got to have good grades. So say if the scholarship that you want may not come through, if there are 15 scholarships for which you are eligible and are interested in, you apply on time for every one of them, for all 15. And you may miss the first 7, but towards the end there, something is going to come around for you. Of those 15, you might not get but 2 or 3, but those 2 or 3 will be significant. So don't get weary in your well-doing when you're applying initially and nothing comes through. The other thing is so important. Parents, it is so important that after January 1st of your child's senior year, that if your school or any other school hosts a financial aid workshop night or evening, make sure you're there. Because there's no paper copy of anything for the federal financial aid form anymore. Everything is online. And the way we have ours set up at Myrtle Beach High School is once parents bring their tax and their income information, once they leave that lab, they are done. They have applied for their students' financial aid. So if you don't get local scholarships, and I believe you will, the FAFSA is so important because from that, grants and other opportunities are available. Now, we want to try to, stay away from loans as much as possible. In some instances, you're going to have to get a loan, but you want to keep that minimal. So therefore, it's so important. So I cannot stress that enough, parents, is that you got to fill out the FAFSA. You got to do it early, got to do it on time so that your student is able to receive as much money as possible. And we want them to get every dime that they're eligible for, and because they deserve it.
That's right. That's
and so we got to be on time and on task with filing the financial aid.
So January 1, 2012, they could begin to fill out the FAFSA application.
Well, actually, once they get their W-2s, whatever from their employers, and get the tax thing filled out, that's when they can begin the process.
Okay.
But by January 31st, all employers are really supposed to have that piece of information out to their employees.
What if you have parents that want to go ahead and fill it out and then just resubmit the income tax information later? Is that something that they can do?
Yes, they can go ahead and actually complete the form based on last year's information, and then when they get the current, when everything's filled out and completed, they just can go back and call what it is an adjustment, and put in the correct information. But yeah, they can do it early and based on last year's information. And it's also important that the student and the parent must have a PIN. PIN, personal identification number, because there's no signature. That PIN number is your signature.
Okay. And Tanisha, did you have something? No? Okay. So Michelle pretty much answered?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Cookie pretty much covered what I wanted to say. When you fill out your FAFSA, if you don't complete it all the way, then you don't get nothing. I personally had to witness that my freshman year. I blew it off. I was like, oh, it's no big deal. Come second semester, I was in so deep. Yeah. So yes, please fill that out.
That's calling being a bootleg. Not handling your business, keeping the main thing. Patrick, what you got?
One thing to piggyback off of what Ms. Gowan said about the financial aid, when you do it, it's really essential that you do it because there's a deadline. And if you don't have it done, like the very least by June 15th, then you basically get nothing until the next year until you can try it again. But it's best to try and have it done at least by the end of February, because by April, they're already putting your packages together for the school year. So you need to make sure that what you have is filled out and the federal government knows, because that's your money and you don't want to play with your money.
That's right.
That's right. And most of the colleges have an April 15th, if not earlier. Some schools have an April 1st. But really and truly by mid-March, that's what we tell all of our parents. By mid-March, this thing should be done, completed, and finished, because like Patrick said, they're starting to put together, the financial aid and scholarship offices at your colleges and universities are beginning to put together your financial aid package. And if you wait to the end, you get what's left, and if you wait to the very end, there is none. And we have to be aware that those sources are being cut, so the early bird gets the worm.
That's right. So this is really good, and you know what, Ms. Goins, I think we might have to do a part 2.
I would like to share the blessings of the Seahawk family with Olive Horry and Georgetown County. And if there's a website available, I really would love to make this information available, because we want these kids to or these young people to get the very best. They deserve it, and that's what we want to offer them on any given day.
And we will have it on our website, which is www.wesoundoff.com. Unfortunately, our time is up. And once again, we would like to give a special shout out and a very special thank you to my good friend Mary Canty Cookie Goins. Did I say that right? Yeah. Sound.
Rated T14.
And a special thank you to our sponsor, Carolina Teen Health. We appreciate you guys and much love to you. You've been listening to Sound Off. Until next week, we sound off and
You can sound off too.
Sound off.
Rated T14.